Thank you guys all for being here today. There's a story behind why Seth recommended me. I'll tell that to you today. But first of all, thank you for this. How many of you guys have been truly terrified in your life before? I'm talking real primal fear. When your heart is beating fast, like mine is right now, your hands start to sweat, or maybe they get shaky, your breath speeds up. You wonder if you're going to make it from one moment to the next. Yeah, we're a group of entrepreneurs, innovators. We should have all felt that way. Yeah, me too. In 2008, I started business school, but not at Harvard, not at, Wharton. I started the Alternative MBA, which was a business school put on by Seth Godin. How many of you guys know Seth or have heard of him? He's a big blogger, arguably one of the best online businessmen that I know in this world. And he has a blog that's read quite widely. And he put on an entrepreneurship program that was 6 months with him at his office, learning real world style entrepreneurship. So this is like in the trenches. We're not doing any financial analysis, although we ended up doing a little bit of that. But this was, how do you really run your own gig in the real world? How do you make that happen? How do you deal with the fears, all the issues that come up with that? So we learned marketing, business, publishing. Really, for me, who knows why experiences affect us as they do? I had been through pain in my life before, as we all have. Death of loved ones, heartbreak, epic heartbreak. Personal and professional failures, challenges, but for some reason, this took me under. I have a few reasons perhaps why, but the gravity of it still to this day, 4 years later, is still a mystery. I think it's because, I'll rewind a little bit. In 2008, I was studying photography. Way different from business and marketing. And I had started reading Seth's blog, not understanding why, having no business and marketing experience at all. I had gone to med school, stopped that, went to grad school, stopped that, was in photo school now, trying to make it happen, figuring out where I fell into these systems, and I started reading personal development blogs, leadership blogs. And he resonated with me so much, as if you're a reader of his blog, you'll get it. He melds personal development, leadership, business, and marketing in a way that I have never seen anyone else do it. And so I felt myself really feeling connected to his work, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna go and hear him speak. He was giving a lecture in New York City. I was in Boston at the time. So I hopped a bus, the Chinatown bus from Boston to New York, and went to hear him speak. He was speaking about a book called Tribes, which is about finding your people in this world and connecting them in a certain way, hopefully connecting them in a way where they all engage and love each other. But more than that, you were a leader. You were doing stuff that mattered. You had a purpose. And more than anything, you felt like you were doing something meaningful. And I was listening to this at the Time Center in New York, just weeping, like in the audience, weeping hysterically. And people thought I was insane, and I did too. I didn't understand what was happening, why it overwhelmed me so much. And I hopped the bus back home to Boston, went business as usual, went back, graduated, moved to New York with like big hopes and big dreams, the way people move to New York City, and started working with a photographer at the time, who was also one of my idols, but I was studio managing, and you could kind of see the glass ceiling, not in a feminine way, glass ceiling, but I somehow knew it wasn't my cup of tea. And so there I am, I'm low performing at work, reading blogs, and Seth's blog comes in, and the title of his post is, "If You Could Change Your Life, Would You?" And I'm sitting there, medicine, graduate school, photography, thinking to myself, Ishita, at this point in time, even having chose, to leave the academic realm and enter the creative realm, I think I would change my life. And I'm not very risk averse at all. So I said to myself, okay, be responsible, whatever that means. And that day, what he had described, if you could change your life, would you? It was literally don't go to business school, spend 6 months with me, with 10 other people, learning about entrepreneurship. For some reason, I thought this was my opportunity. I felt like after reading his post, this was made for me. Whatever, I don't know. And I'll rewind just a little bit. After I left his event, after I heard him speak, weeping, I went outside and I remember saying to myself, I will work with him. Like, God knows where that voice came from, but it was resolute and it was there. And I said, Ishita, just do it now. This is your shot. And so I did. I spent the next 3 days barely eating, sleeping, showering, and I wrote as I've never written before, just raw, honest. And Seth asks questions also that are very kind of, tell me exactly how you feel. No layers of superficiality. So I hit send, I did that. Hit send and said, prayed like a motherfucker. And then said, you know what? You did what you needed to do. If nothing else comes from this, you were as honest as you could have ever been. And he's very fast, right? So like a couple days later, I get an email that says, okay, come for an interview. I'm freaking out at this point in time. 2 weeks later, we all go for an interview. And 2 days later, Seth says, okay, you guys are in. There's 9 of us. And look, now it felt like I had gotten exactly what I wanted. I wrote that application. That same night, I quit my photo job. So this shows I'm not really responsible in the grand scheme of things. But I don't need my ducks in a row, clearly. But we started on Inauguration Day. We watched the inauguration. And what do you do when you watch the inauguration? It's all inspiration and excitement, and we're going to, go and do this and change, and yes, we can, and all this stuff. I go home that night. Shit hits the fan. I am so overwhelmed. I am so terrified. I can't even tell you. I think it was because, I was working with now someone who had grown to become an idol of mine. Clearly, his blog is read by I don't know how many people. Now, all the attention was on this program. This was my biggest opportunity. I didn't want to fail. I felt like it would change everything. The level that you had to come in operating at with these 9 other people was so much. I needed to do everything I could to get my reserves of energy up. And I think it was just the culmination of all of these things that put me in a true state of terror. I know it sounds dramatic. Honestly, my body shut down. I lost 15 pounds, and I'm a small gal. My skin freaked out. I went to doctors. They were like, what? There's nothing happening. You're just under chronic stress. It felt like my body was under siege. My family and friends didn't know what to do with me. I'd come home and cry every night. I'd have to Google what we did that day. We'd go through the day, and then I'd come home and do hours of research just trying to figure out what happened. And it was really crazy. And I don't know. I don't know exactly why it affected me that way, but it did. And so one day Seth walks in and says, okay, guys, start a business or a project. Just like that. You guys are going to start a business or a project. Who knows how to start a business? I didn't. I had no idea. So I said, okay, I'll start a project. And all I could feel was this fear. It eclipsed everything. So I said to myself, Ishita, you really want to quit this? I was going to quit twice, seriously, very seriously. And something, I think it was my soul just kind of telling me I had more lessons to learn, said, no, this is your time now to be responsible, an adult. Stay. And so I did, but I felt cornered. I totally felt like I didn't know what I was going to do. I was the biggest loser, idiot, failure, who all these people now were going to see I had no business marketing experience, least of all Seth. And so I thought, okay, I'm just going to start a project. So what I did was I essentially went through the next 6 months of therapy. I started interviewing people who inspired me, authors, friends, mentors, artists, business people, CEOs, all about fear. I started talking to them about exactly their specific experiences and how they dealt with it. And I was insatiable. I think I interviewed people for the next 6 months straight, just constantly sort of understanding and learning from them. And that magazine, it's called Fear.less now, has 15,000 people for it. But do you think in that moment of time I was thinking it would be a marketing asset, people would sign up, it would be cool? No. I just wanted 2 minutes free of feeling this immense kind of overtaking fear. So for me, how does this relate to innovation? I am here for a reason. To me, we think about innovation wrong. I think we bang our head against a wall trying to force innovation, trying to say, well, how can I be cool and hip and creative? And New York City, you feel this constantly. I do. But I really feel like the fundamental way to be innovative is to solve a deeply personal need. Like, I mean, like your specific personal need. What is something that you're either going through right now, or your own story or your own experience, the things that we automatically discount because we spend too much time imitating or trying to be innovative? To me, innovating for innovation's sake is futile. And that's where the phrase, necessity is the mother of invention, and phrases like innovate or die come from. Because I truly believe if you're cornered, like I felt, because my deep, urgent need was to stop feeling fear, how do you innovate yourself out of that? That is where the crux of where innovation lies, where your old methods, your old tools, your old resources just aren't cutting it. They certainly weren't for me. And it's being up against that corner where they say innovate or die, because survival isn't a certainty if you don't innovate. At least that's how I felt. You have to be willing to put yourself in these uncomfortable, highly uncomfortable, terrifying situations that literally force you to think of new ways, new solutions. You know, we throw around that word innovate. And to me, I think it has to come from a deeply personal place. So the formula, I think, if ever there was one, or my steps, 5 steps for how to do it, I think if I were to draw a Venn diagram for you, here's my first circle. It's identifying this need. So like, start with you. Start with something that is deeply personal, because I don't think things start out as universal. I think they start out as very specific and then become universal. So I wouldn't have cared at all about Titanic, probably, had James Cameron not made that movie. I mean, maybe for general knowledge, but he found us a problem or a story that he felt was really important, spent a ton of money and a ton of technology, and now the mass public knows about this story in a way that we wouldn't have. We have an emotional attachment to it in a way we wouldn't have. And that's how I think we're humans. You and I probably share similarities, some certain values, even though we think we're different. The world can extrapolate from your personal experience. So that's the first thing, is identifying this need. The second circle is stepping into these uncomfortable situations and not running. My first instinct is to run. That's what survival is. We run. I think when we run from discomfort, we also run from innovation, because it's this kind of terrifying being cornered that is the fruit of where innovation is, the impulse to innovate. So here's that. Now I'm shading in those 2 circles, okay? This is innovation to me. This is that space. And if you live in that space, you'll naturally innovate. Innovation happens by default. I think it's this idea of creating innovation, to me, that doesn't fly so well. Because what I've experienced is the opposite. I've experienced that when you continuously, repeatedly confront situations where you question your worldview, where your whole thinking is turned upside down, where you're forced to face your deepest fear and identify your greatest needs, that is where innovation happens. It's default. It's natural. So you'll be hip and cool and original just by virtue of being born and being you, because that's what we miss, I think, when we struggle and we try to find it. And to me, right now, all of us, when people say, how did you create an innovative magazine? Like, I absolutely was not trying, right? I was literally not trying at all. I think we're sitting on a gold mine. We really are. You all, without a doubt, hands down, are sitting on a crazy amount of innovation if we could push ourselves to really figuring out like the potential in our veins and like just uncovering that. To me, that is the heart of innovation. And I think that's the step that we skip. That's the step that I skipped, and I'm only learning that now. So go to your deepest fears. Identify your needs. We'll learn from you. Realize that your own stories, experiences, fears have so much value. I didn't think one other person in life gave a shit about fear or learning about it or doing anything, and yet I kept going and did it for 2 years. So that's innovation to me, and I once worked with a mentor of mine, the guy who invented the heart defibrillator, you know, that thing that, yeah. He said, I'm less eager to make a point than I am to make a difference, but I hope I've done both here for you guys today. Thank you very much for being here, too. Thank you.